Tapping into life, we're ready to shine. With every step forward, we're crossing the line. Embrace the hustle, let the fire ignite. Together we rise, we'll conquer the night.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Tapping into Life podcast. I am your spirit life coach, Matthew B, and we are here to learn and receive the knowledge that's going to help us in our journey to become a better us. So come on in. Grab your pad, your pen, your snack, get comfortable sitting into the living room of life as we tap into one of the most important topics that we need to understand and hear. All right. So not only am I talking to y'all, I'm going to talk to myself today as well. Okay. I'm gonna talk to myself. People say, "Oh, you should be talking to yourself." Listen, if that helps you understand you, then by all means, get into a place and you talk to yourself so you can learn about yourself, so you can make yourself better. You can be honest with yourself, okay? So, so once again, come on in. Always remember to like, subscribe on YouTube, tapping into life, all one word on YouTube, okay? And if you're on Facebook, tapping into life LLC, and like the page so that every time we get on here and I record an episode, you will be notified. All right. So we're going to get into it, y'all. We're going to get into it. And you just hear the background music so it can soothe your mind. Come on in, y'all. So today, we are going to focus on the topic. All right. And the topic is pouring into you. Do I need to say that again? Pouring into you. Are you pouring into yourself? Are you pouring the nourishment and the wisdom and the knowledge? Are you pouring the time into working on you? Are you investing the time? Are you managing yourself? Are you focusing on you as it pertains to your healing? Identifying what's stopping you from being great? Are you taking the time to assess the issues that you may have that you need to work on? Are you working on learning how to balance yourself? All right? Because a lot of us, we don't do that. A lot of us, we don't take the time to pour into ourselves. And because we deprive ourselves of pouring into ourselves, the end result is very detrimental to our well-being. All right? So we got to learn what it means to pour into ourselves. And that's what we're going to learn today. And once we learn it and we study it, we need to apply it. All right? So get nestled in and just shake off the day. Just shake off the day. I understand that, Christmas is on the horizon and we are excited about the holidays, but we got to just shake some stuff off. Because after Christmas, it is a new year. And we can't go into the new year doing the same things we're doing. And one of the things that we can't go into the new year with doing is not pouring into ourselves, y'all. We have to learn how to pour into ourselves. No, is that pouring starts in you. All right. Who you are, your spiritual journey, life in itself, changing the world, speaking love and peace and joy and kindness starts with you. And you have to know what it means to pour into yourself. All right. Now, I understand as a child, our parents and our grandparents and our aunts and uncles and people of the community have poured love and kindness into us. How to handle situations, how to control our anger as kids. And we've taken that, and some of us, we've applied it. We've applied it, and we're doing great with it. Some of us, we just didn't understand it as kids. But neither here nor there. We are grown. We are grown men and women. And yes, we've had these loved ones pour into us, but are we pouring into ourselves? Are we pouring into ourselves? Are you pouring into you? All right. So I gotta take my notes and stuff. All right. Yeah, it looks like a book, but I'm gonna make it as short and sweet. At the same time, dive into it, because this is something that's important and we all need to know. Okay. Y'all ready? Y'all okay? I have a question. And the question is, are you pouring into yourself? Are you pouring into you? Because a lot of us, we negate the time and the efforts to pour into ourselves. And one may ask, why is that? Right? I may ask, why isn't he or she pouring into his or herself? Or one may ask his or herself, why am I not pouring into myself? I pour into everybody else. Why am I not pouring into myself? I want you all to ask yourself that. Are you pouring into yourself? Are you pouring the love into yourself? Are you pouring the kindness into yourself? Are you pouring the happiness into yourself? Right? Are you pouring the peace into yourself? Are you pouring the healing into yourself? Are you pouring the knowledge to know what is beneficial and detrimental? Are you pouring these things into yourself? Are you pouring in the time to make you a better you? Are you putting in that time to build those boundaries? So, food for thought, right? Before you pour into anybody else, one must be able to pour into his or herself. So before I open up my mouth and pour into somebody else, I got to be able to pour into me. Before you pour into somebody else, you have to be able to pour into you. Okay? Because here's why. We are all shaped in some condition of trauma. All right. We're all shaped in some condition of trauma. Not saying that in your childhood something bad happened to you. What I'm saying is something may have happened to your parents that conditioned them to raise you a certain way. Good or bad. Some may have happened to your grandparents that conditioned your grandparents to raise your mom or your dad in a way that conditioned them to raise you. But regardless of where the trauma started, we are all shaped under the conditions of trauma. And it may not affect us right then and now, but at some point, we have to learn who we are and our spiritual DNA. Because if not, then what we don't see that is detrimental may fester up like a virus, like a spiritual virus, and it may start attacking us. And we don't want to get to that point. So now we got to invest time to heal over something that we should have been aware of. Right? So are you pouring into you? And before you start pouring somebody else, you have to understand, you have to give yourself time. Because if you don't take the time for you, how are you going to be the person that can pour into somebody else? Think on it, dwell on it, meditate on it as it pertains to you. Take the time. This is part of pouring. Many of us pour or impart into others with the expectation that he or she will pour into us. I want to focus on that, right? Because there's some of us who don't know how to pour into our individual selves, right? And what we do is we do everything for everybody. We give everybody time and efforts to help make them a better them. But when it comes down to us, we feel lost. We feel abandoned. We feel that no one's going to be there. Right? We help everybody else. But who is here to help us? That's the thought that we have in ourselves when it comes to pouring into other people. Right? There's a famous celebrity that says, if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? We got to get to that point to where we don't expect people to pour into us, but we do that based on what has been poured into our individual selves by way of our individual selves. Okay? We must understand that if we don't pour into ourselves and we begin to pour into other people, we start pouring emotional trauma into other people. All right, let me stop the background for a minute. All right, I want y'all to focus on that. If we don't pour into ourselves, if we don't take the time to heal, if we don't take the time to understand us, if we don't take the time to assess what is beneficial and detrimental and what is hindering us from being great, what happens? Y'all ready? Here's what happens. Whatever it is that we're going through and our emotions that, during the time that we go through it, we start pouring our emotions into other people. Ooh, right? So if I'm trying to pour positivity into someone who is going through a bad breakup, and if I have not properly healed or taken the time at all to heal from whatever hurt that I experienced during my breakups, then I'm going to now pour or impart emotional experiences or emotional perspectives in somebody else's spiritual atmosphere. Right? That's just like saying you on your phone with your friend and they going through a breakup and they say, and that person is telling the story. Well, I wouldn't have did that. I would have said this and this and this. So I would have left a long time ago. I would have did that. I would have been right down here and did this and A, B, C, and X, Y, and Z. I don't need to hear that from you. I'm already in the process of trying to understand where I need to go as far as healing. And you're going to come with your opinions that has nothing to do with me because you didn't pour into yourself the healing that you needed to pour. And I understand everybody wants to be there for everybody, right? I understand y'all want to be there for your parents, your aunties and your uncles, your cousins, your brother and your sisters, your friends. I understand y'all want to be there. But you can't pour 100% of what you need to pour if you have not first poured 100% into yourself. Because at some point, 100% will be poured into that person. But what is the content of that 100%? You can say, keep your head up, everything's going to be all right. You're a strong man, you're a strong woman. That's only 10%. Now you got 20% of emotional trauma that person hadn't experienced, but you experienced. So because you didn't take the time to pour into you, you are now pouring also into that person. Y'all get what I'm saying? That's just like me telling somebody, giving somebody knowledge on how to fix a car, and I have not once tried to prop the car up and fix the car and fix my own car. What's gonna happen? That car might blow up. So you got to be able to pour it into you. And another question is, why don't we do that? Well, I'm here to tell y'all this. There are some people out here who feel like nothing is wrong with them. There is. There are people out here that feel like nothing is wrong with them And if they go through something, that it will never affect them. If they went through a bad breakup, it'll never affect them. If they lost their job, it'll never affect them. If they were abused as kids, it will never affect them. There are people out here, and y'all may say, well, Matthew, nah, no, I'm telling you, there are people out here that has a story and a situation just like ours, but they feel that I ain't got no hurt, I ain't got no pain, I ain't got no trauma that's gonna affect me. Yeah, it happened. I'll just move on. So they don't pour into themselves. So they deprive themselves of the knowledge and the healing. And it begins to fester up and show in their human nature, right? And then there are some people, and y'all may say, Matthew, I don't know what you're saying. I'm here to tell you. There are some people who just flat out don't know how to pour. They don't know how to pour within themselves, right? There are some people who I'm going to pour into you, but I don't know how to pour into myself. So I rather for you to be great, just because I don't know how to pour into myself don't mean that I can't pour into you. And they assume that they're pouring everything that needs to be poured into a person based on the person's dynamic or the dynamic between you two. But in reality, there is a void of content that is detrimental to the person that's being poured into. There are some people who just don't know. They don't know how to take the time and say, hey, my name is, and this is what I'm going through. This what makes me happy. This what makes me sad. This what makes me angry. This is what I'm hurting from. This is the trauma. This is what I need to work on. This is how I should balance my life. You know, this is beneficial. This is detrimental. No, but there are people who don't know how to do that flat out. And you can't blame them as a person, but understand that their circumstances and conditions that have shaped and molded them to be in the mindset or in the existence that they're in, that they just don't know how to do it. Nobody has ever taught them. Everybody may not be blessed like you to have a grandmother or a grandfather or a mommy or a daddy or an aunt or an uncle or a pastor of a church or a mentor or a teacher that talks to you and imparts in you and pours into you so that you can begin pouring into yourself based on the love and the kindness and all the positive things that these individuals have poured into you during your childhood. Everybody don't have that. So there are people walking out here wanting to pour or think they have what it takes to pour, but they have an empty cup. And I've said this before that I have ran across people and I may ask them, what makes you happy? I don't know. You don't know. When you wake up in the morning, you mean to tell me when you get up out that bed and you wake up in the morning, you don't know what makes you happy? And it's not these people being buttholes. It's not these people being bad people. It's that they genuinely don't know. They don't know what makes them happy. Why? Because they never poured into themselves to gain the knowledge and the awareness of what makes them happy. Right? So, and then there's some other people. All right. We highlighting everything today. There are other people who are just flat out scared to know. If I pour into myself, this means that awareness and consciousness and revelation are going to happen. This means that I'm going to find out what is detrimental and what has caused me hurt and pain, and I just don't want to do that. Like, I am scared. There are some people who are scared to pour into themselves because they don't want to know the true them. They don't want to see those spiritual scars. They don't want to be knowledgeable of the pain and the revelation and the reality that their humanness is dwelling in. They don't want to. They're just scared, right? But I'm here to tell you, if you don't pour into yourself, you can't fully understand who you are. So there will be no, oh, I'm my own person. How you your own person? You hadn't poured it, went through the process of pouring into yourself to find out who you are. So how do you know you your own person? Well, this is me. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? I know how to love. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? I'm happy. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? I am mentally sane. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? I can make a good husband or wife or a good parent. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? I can own a business. How do you know that? Have you poured into yourself? If we are not pouring into ourselves, we really don't know what we're capable of doing. So what we think we're capable of doing are under the conditions and circumstances that has been said by somebody else and not have been said by us, the individual. Mm. So do we know? Are we pouring into ourselves? Part of the reason why a lot of us don't pour into ourselves is because we don't want to do the work. And I have been doing this podcast in a month and 7 days. I would have been doing this podcast for 2 years. And out of all now 55 episodes, I think 90% of the time of everything that I have talked about, even if I had guests on, I have expressed that if you don't put in the work, then you will never heal. You will never get to that place to where you're happy. You will never get to that place to where you're at peace. You will never get to that place for you to understand that you can be anything and anybody that you want to be. You will never understand anything about you if you don't put in the work to find who you are. Part of that is putting in the work. Part of putting in the work is healing. It's facing the reality. And sometimes that reality is an ugly reality. It's just what it is. Sometimes that reality don't work out in your favor. Sometimes when you go and you soul searching, you find that the reality is kicking you in your ass. Why? Because we are not putting in the work that we should be putting in to get to where we need to get to. I'm not just saying this because, hey, y'all need to do this, y'all need to do that. I'm saying this because the person who is talking to you and you're listening to right now had to go through this process. Hey, I want to be at peace. I got to put in the work. I want to heal. I got to put in the work. I want to be a great husband. I got to put in the work. I want to be a good daddy one day. I got to put in the work. I want to be a good family person. I got to put in the work. Anything that you want to do, you first got to find out what's stopping you from doing it. And if you don't put in the work to fix what can be fixed and remove what is toxic and heal and understand, if you don't put in the work, you will never be where you need to be. You're just not going to be laying on your couch Saturday morning eating the little cheese balls, and it's a knock on your door, and here's your piece. Here's who you are. No, it don't work like that. You gotta have to put in the work. And a lot of us are not putting in the work. This is why we're not where we need to be. This is why we're feeling the way we feel. This is why sometimes these thoughts and these moments in our head, because we're not pouring into ourselves. We're not investing that time into ourselves. We're not asking ourselves, are we okay? We all into ourselves, but then soon as we come across something, a relationship, a friendship, a job, kids, we forget that we still have to pour into ourselves. You making time to pour into yourself is an everyday thing. It ain't a every other day thing. It ain't an every other weekend thing. It ain't an every year thing. Every single day, you need to find time to pour into yourself. Some people call it me time. Some people call it relaxation time. Some people call it meditation. Whatever you call it, this is a mandatory. I don't care how busy your day is. People make time for what they want to make time for. If you want to feel a certain way and understand who you truly are and connect with your internal self, you have to make time to pour into you. Because if you don't pour into yourself, how you going to be that good husband or that good wife, that good parent, that good coworker, that good friend, that good leader? How are you going to successfully and effectively help somebody if you don't even know how to help yourself? And I understand, like I said, I'm going to repeat this again. I understand there are some of us who just don't want to know the, the work that we have to do because they may feel some type of way about it. You're going to have to go through it. I don't know who told somebody that life is all peaches and cream, that you won't have any storms, that you won't experience any trials or tribulations. I don't know who told who that. I don't know, right? I don't know. My expertise on the face of this planet is life coaching, spiritual healing, and hotel hospitality. Other than that, I don't know where this came from, that our lives should be peaches and cream from the day we're born to the day we die. I I don't know. And whatever person created that narrative, we need to find out who they are. We need to have a heart to heart with them. But we have to invest time. We have to pour into ourselves. We got to love ourselves. We got to make ourselves happy. But what we do, we expect people to do that. We expect people to be around us and pour love into us because we assume that that's how we're going to feel love. Right? We need to pour happiness into ourselves. We got to find out what makes ourselves happy. But what we do, we assume that if we're people around us, that are going to pour happiness into us. And then that's the definition of happiness as it pertains to us. I'm here to tell y'all this. A lot of stuff that people pour into y'all may not necessarily align with your true spiritual identity. Because did we not forget that there are wolves in sheep's clothing out here? And people would tell us anything. Do we not forget that an entire industry is under the microscope right now because there were certain people who poured something into the cups of other people and now they're falling victims? Have we not forgotten that? Just because it's in the entertainment industry does not mean that it's not happening to the average 9 to 5 Jane Doe or John Doe. When you pour into you, you will begin to understand the knowledge and get the discernment of who is pouring into you and what they're pouring into you. You have to build your own boundaries and have to get your own understanding of who you are as an individual and how your spirit and your spiritual atmosphere connects with the spiritual universe. Because there are people out here pouring, and then they're trying to make you and groom you to be a certain man or woman. And then somewhere down the line, here you are, you're having a mental breakdown. And you got to go through this process of healing and understanding what the hell is going on. And when you get to that point of what you know what's going on, then all of a sudden, for years, I have allowed people to tell me any and everything. For years, I've allowed people to spiritually abuse me. For years, I've allowed people to manipulate me. Why? Why do some of us get to that point? Because we never take the time to pour into ourselves. We didn't take the time to pour into ourselves. We didn't take the time to pour or invest that time to connect with the spiritual universe, the mouth of God. We didn't take that time. We didn't take the time, of what makes us happy. So anything that was poured into our cup that looked like happiness, we believed it. Same thing with love. Same thing with joy. All of these things that we should be pouring into ourselves, it's getting poured into by other people that are wolves in sheep's clothing. But had we would have taken the time to really pour into ourselves, we would have known, I'm gonna need you gone over there. Cause that don't even add up right. That math ain't math. And you going over there and you go over there and talk to a rock and see if that rock believes you. Because if the rock don't believe you, I know damn well I'm not gonna believe you. That's where we need to be. Because if we're being hoodwinked, if we're being tricked by what people are pouring into us, then what we gonna do? We're going to pour into somebody else the same foolishness that people are pouring into us. And when you pour into yourself and somebody, when you pour into yourself, it should be like oil, right? And when somebody pour into you, it should be like water. If that person is pouring oil into you, because oil and oil, what they do, fuse together. But water and oil, what does it do? Separates. So if you need oil poured into you, and somebody is pouring anything but oil, you will know. Why? Because you have shaped the foundation and the boundaries of what you're going to allow to be poured into you. What people pour into you have to align with what you poured into yourself. And if it doesn't align, you're bound to fall or believe anything. This is why we have to understand how to pour into ourselves. So the question is, okay, Matthew, you're talking about all this pouring and stuff like that. But how do I know it's proper pouring into myself? Share with me, spiritual life coach, what I need to do to be able to know if I'm pouring into myself. First of all, got to know. How do you know? How does one pour into his or herself? First thing, mind your business. Mind your business. In order to live a peaceful life, or get to the point to where your life is peaceful and everything that's in your life is peaceful, you are to work in silence and mind your business. We need to mind our business and stay out of everybody else's business. Stay out of everybody else's business. It is okay to be cautious of what's going on. It's okay to be aware of what's going on. But if it has nothing to do with you, mind your damn business. Mind your business. Unless somebody is being hurt or hurt themselves or hurting themselves, those are the only two things that you need to do that's outside of your business. If somebody is being hurt or they're hurting themselves, other than that, mind your business. Mind your business. That's it. You just mind your business. The next thing, eliminate all distractions. Anything that's going to distract you from staying focused on making you a better you and pouring into you, I'm going to need you to get away from it. Run as far away from it as you can. Okay? Run. Turn the other way. Don't get distracted. The next thing, make time for self-care. Like I said earlier, this is mandatory. This is an everyday thing. It ain't bi-weekly. It ain't bi-monthly. It ain't once a quarter. It ain't once a year. This is every single day. Before you get them kids up in the morning, or before you go to bed, or before you have husband and wife time, make time to pour into you. Whether it's meditating, whether it's a hobby, whether it's prayer, find time to connect with you and the spiritual universe to hear clearly and get a clear definition of what's going on inside of you. All right? Y'all good? Find what brings you peace. If it don't bring you peace, 9 times out of 10, that is something very detrimental you need to get rid of yesterday. So find what brings you peace. Find what makes you happy. Find what brings you joy. These are going to be the things that help you out when you pour into yourself. Accept and be knowledgeable of the revelations of things that affect you. And this is part of what pouring into ourselves is. This is what, like I said, people get kind of just shooken up by. Part of pouring into you is finding out what's causing you to feel the way, to feel down, to feel depressed, to feel angry, to feel sad. What are causing you in your life for these things? Why are you depressed? Why is your mental health ain't where it should be? When you connect with you, you start finding out all kinds of revelations. When you connect with you and your connected you connects with the mouth of God, the spiritual universe, I'm here to tell y'all, you will find out a lot of revelations coming from someone who experienced this. You will find out a lot of things that you did not see before you started pouring into you. And some of that stuff, it just don't sit right. Some of that stuff makes you angry. Some of that stuff, you be angry, like, how in the world did I let myself get to this point? But it ain't about how. The, the focus is not about how. Yeah, you got to figure out how you got here. But that's not something that you focus on 100%. You focus on how and what I need to do to prevent it from happening again or continue to happen. And a lot of us, we don't do that. And we got to get to that point to where we are doing that. Understanding the revelation. The revelation is not going to shape your future. The revelation is going to help you understand what you need to do so that you can have a future of prosperity, of happiness, of joy, of kindness, of spiritual growth. And like I said, sometimes those revelations, really? Or, you know what? I didn't even know that. Now that makes sense. Now that makes perfectly good sense. Commit to putting in time and work to properly heal. We already talked about that. Some of us are on the correct track in doing that. We got to put in that time to heal. Sometimes that the healing process, it does hurt, and sometimes it is uncomfortable. But remember how much knowledge that you can pull out of that, and how much, you know, revelation of who you are that you can pull out of healing. Always remember that. I'm gonna tell you now, that's the last thing I want to do is going on a process of healing. Knowing how it makes me feel, how uncomfortable it is. But if that's where I need to be to get to where I need to get, that's what I need to do to get to where I need to get to. All right, let me lace up my boots, put on my alligator skin, put on my armor, get my sword, put my helmet on. All right, let's go. Sometimes we got to do that. And like I said, I don't know who said that life would be peaches, but we need to beat them up because that person don't know what they talking about. Next thing, part of pouring into yourself is to balance all aspects of your life. Like I said, some of us, I understand y'all want that career, and I understand y'all want to be successful in that career. But if that career is compromising you, that is y'all's business. That's all I'm gonna say. I can't tell y'all what y'all need to do or how to handle something. But if your career is depriving you time from pouring into you, that's something to think about. What is more important, your success or your sanity? What is more important, money or your sanity? What is more important, having a big house, lots of land, and 5 cars, and having 6+ figures in the bank, or your mental health? Because if you know how to balance, you can have both of those things. A good, strong mental health, spiritual balance, emotional stability, all of your spiritual growth, all of that would be in tune. At the same time, you can have the successful career. But once you start coming out of balance, then that's when things start going left. Look at all of these celebrities, A-list celebrities making big money. You know, these celebrities we look at every day, right? And look how some of their stories where they had to sit down for a season. And then when you see them again, they go on this whole story about mental health and what they had to work on spiritually and emotionally, and you know, and they'll straight up tell you fame ain't the, being famous and having all this should not, cost in the form, should not, how can I say this? Your who you are should not be the cost or the price that you have to pay to be successful in a career. Many people will tell you that. So why would you want to be the next person to go through that? Because to be honest with you, nobody should be going through that. But when we feel that we don't need to establish balance in our lives, then situations like this happen. And it's not just career, it's relationships too. And we're gonna we gonna hammer that nail in. It's relationships too. If you're doing everything for your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, and you don't take the time to pour into you, what happens? You get to a point to where you feel it. And then you go through this healing process, and once you heal, well, what have you learned from this? What I learned from is always put time and effort into myself to make sure I'm okay as I do that man or that woman. Many people will tell you that. Why would you want to be the next person to go through it? With pouring into yourself comes self-discovery. I'm gonna tell you now, self-discovery is a beautiful thing, even though it may not look beautiful all the time, but it's a beautiful thing in the end. That's all I'm saying. Establish a spiritual connection with the spiritual atmosphere and the spiritual universe. Okay, now I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna keep saying it. Spiritual universe, the mouth of God. The mouth of God, right? Spiritual universe is the mouth of God and how we're connected to one another through the mouth of God. Have some spiritual connection with Him. All right. However, you define God, however, you if you don't call God God, may call him a different name, may call him divine creator or omnipotent one. You have to establish that connection because if you don't establish that connection, then you're going to be off. You're not going to fully understand. All right. So, as we're moving forward into the new year, always remember to pour into you. Right? I appreciate each and every one of you taking in the time to invest into yourselves. Right? Continue to invest and pour into yourself. So until next time, study what has been spoken. Ask yourself, are you pouring into you? And we're going to move on with greatness. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that all of you enjoy spending time with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. But remember, through it all, through the holiday season, to continue to tap into you and pour into yourself. All right? We're going to get out of here. Until next